you very much. Thank you. So just like all the panelists have shared, we will all be looking at what is domestic violence, the different types of domestic violence, the causes of domestic violence, consequences of domestic violence on the family and friends, education and prevention of domestic violence, recommendations, and way forward. And we will be looking at our legal expert will be giving us more information on the legal side of it. So yes, we dive into my question. My first question will go to Dr. Victoria, and we would like to get a clear definition of domestic violence, or what is domestic violence, and what are the different types of domestic violence? Because a lot of people have got all this mixed up. So we would like to hear from you, and after that, we will hear from the reactions of the people. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Victoria Faisal.
Okay, I will give the definition of domestic violence. And I would like to say there are several types of definition out there, but which has been summarized into like two types of definition. That's the academic definition and the legal definition. I will give the academic definition that has also been summarized from a lot of studies. Domestic violence mostly is being described as a violent action and inaction between individuals in a relationship or in a household. I want to emphasize on the word inaction, because most people think that domestic violence has to do with beatings or mostly physical thing, but most often a lot of stress is being put now on inactions because of the psychological trauma that domestic violence also causes. So most often the emphasis is being placed on women and children as victims, but men are also victims of domestic violence. The issue is that a lot of men, especially, well, some studies says, statistics show that a lot of African men find it as a taboo to say they have been beaten or by their wives, but men are actually they're also victims of domestic violence. But the issue is, why do a lot of studies concentrate on women and children? Because we all know that violence is actually a show of control. And how can someone be controlled? Normally, you can be controlled by somebody if you are leaning on that person for support. And you can lean on someone for support, mainly for financial support or for physical support. And that's why victims are mostly women and kids, as studies will put it, because usually the thing is one in every four women is a victim of domestic violence, and 60% of children are victims of domestic violence too. So, however, I wouldn't like us to put emphasis on women and kids, but to look at the general view of it, because every life is important. Just one person is important. So we look at the personal aspect of it. Then I will go now to the legal aspect of domestic violence. But I would like to say that the law is being interpreted differently in different countries. I'll give the international law definition of domestic violence, and then it's now been left upon every country to interpret it into their own legal codes. That international law defines domestic violence basically just as violent or a violation of human rights, and they stop at that. And they see it basically as a violation of basic freedom, such as the right to life and security of a person, or as a violation of the right to equality, and as a violation of the prohibition of torture. So that is the international definition of domestic violence by the United Nations. But we all have it differently in our own legal status. In Germany, for example, you have a whole lot of things that are being punished that I know that in different countries are not being punished. But I will leave it at that level for the legal definition so that we concentrate on other aspects. Then I will now give the different types of domestic violence. Okay, good. So you have the first one that I would like to say, which all of us know and call it domestic violence, is physical violence. That's beating and grabbing. We all call that domestic violence. That's the first one. Then you have psychological or emotional violence, which cannot really be quantified because it is non-physical, but it is identified through words used by the perpetrator upon the victim, such as demeaning words that can really make somebody feel bad, or sometimes you have a lot of people crying just because of words that have been used upon them. It can be from a mom, from a dad, from a wife, from a husband, from a partner, from a sister. So those are psychological or emotional violence. Then you have stalking, which is a severe form of physical abuse. It entails things just such as watching the victim from a distance. The thing is, from the background I come from Cameroon, we don't consider that very seriously. But in Germany, it's actually a criminal offense to stalk someone, and it is being taken very seriously. Like observing someone closely from a distance and for a long time, it's actually punishable under the law. Or reading somebody emails without even having permission to read that emails. You have partners doing that. You have even parents doing that. Oh, and children do not like that. It is actually being considered as domestic violence. I don't know how the various legal codes, I don't know all the legal codes in the world, but in Germany it's severely punished. You also have the idea of like breaking into victims' home, or you have partners or friends stalking someone from work all the way to their house. Some people will call it love, but in Germany they call it stalking because the person is not comfortable. And if a person realizes that you're stalking her or him, or you're stalking the child and they call the police, you are criminally liable for that. You also have financial violence, which is just withholding money that is due for someone. It can be withholding money for your partner or just pocket allowance for children. That's financial violence because you have a lot of people need that money to go about their various needs. In most of the countries in which we are, European countries, state give money to children, and normally parents are actually being advised to give money to their kids is for their various needs. There's actually a percentage for some countries, and withholding such money, you call it financial violence, which is also a subtitle of domestic violence. You have like sexual abuse, which is, we all know what sexual abuse is. And that's also a form of domestic violence, which is also very common. Then you have trafficking in human, which is it's mostly not just women trafficking. You have women trafficking, but you also have sexual you have sexual trafficking, and you have human trafficking, which is like general names, like having someone in your household who get to work or do a lot of jobs, but you don't pay the person, or you pay the person what is not due, or which is actually below human standards. You have some people working and not getting enough rest. Then some people will say, oh no, but I'm paying her, she has to do that. No, that's not how it doesn't go that way. That's human trafficking, because that person is supposed to be treated like a human being. Maybe I leave it like that, and then the other speaker speak, or I do not know how okay. Mrs. Moderator, how it will continue from here. Maybe if someone has a question, the person can ask it directly, but I'll leave it like that for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Victoria. I would leave the floor open for maybe 1, 2, 3 people to contribute, to react. If you are not a member of the panel and you really want to react, just raise your hands and I'm going to call you, coach you. I'll move on to Yaki, to Julian.
Yeah. Okay. No, I've just listened to Dr. Victoria, and I just wanted to stress on the emotional aspect, because mostly from our background, we don't look at abuse as, we look at it only in the physical aspect. So we only think until somebody is beaten, or you see a wound, or you see something, that is what is called abuse. So from where we're coming from, a lot of us, we think you can only be, it's only a woman or a man who is being beaten that is being abused. The emotional aspect, verbal abuse, financial abuse, we've heard all of this listed. I think it's a wake-up call for all of us to really start thinking as individuals. Because when we talk about this change and we listen, we can sit here and talk about this emotional abuse, violence, but if we don't take it into action and take it upon ourselves to do something about it, we won't get anywhere. So it's a wake-up call for us to know that abuse is not only physical, because you will hear our men or our women comfortably, let me just say our men, because mostly we all know about men, women being beaten. We hear them comfortably saying that, oh, I've never touched her in my hand. I've never beaten her. As if it's a pride to sit and just say you've never beaten a woman. You know, anyway, if we can just look at that, if from our own background, men can just say, no, I didn't beat her. So it's very normal that I didn't beat her, so I don't abuse her. And the psychological part is even more dangerous. I call it slow poison, because no one sees it. You know, no one sees it. You don't see a man dying. When you open your mouth and give it, pop, 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 you don't see him dying. When a woman comes out there or a man gives it to that woman, you don't see her dying, but they are dying.
Okay, thank you very much, Yaki. You just
bit on that. Like, what are the signs? Because again, someone might not even know that they are being abused. So what are the signs for someone to know that you are in an abusive relationship, you know? So is it maybe something that you can touch on if possible? Or we can discuss about.
Yeah, I think it will be something that we all can discuss about it.
Yeah.
And oh, you want to, yeah. So Dr. Victoria, you want to say something or okay? So we all can discuss about it and come up with the identify the signs and see where we go from there.
Yeah, I was just thinking, based on maybe hearing stories, maybe based on a little bit of personal experience, I don't think you even notice or you know that you're emotionally abused. If I may say, based on my experience, there was a time I couldn't function at work. Okay, I couldn't function. I didn't even know what was happening to me until the doctor wrote me off sick for 6 months. I didn't know. I could go to work. I work 2 weeks. I'm off sick 1 week. I go 2 weeks. I get off sick 2 weeks. I was on and off, very dysfunctional. So I don't think you even realize where you are when you are in a toxic relationship. You don't realize it when you are being abused. You know, that is what most women, they are in there, they don't realize it. They are just in there and you get in a cyclus that you are just locked. And at some point, maybe it sounds like it's normal, say that your body is telling you, or the body is depreciating and you don't know. Your mental is depreciating and you don't know.
Okay, thank you very much, Yaki, for that great contribution. Maybe we should just try to tackle now the signs and symptoms. I think it will be, and you just mentioned one, and that you psychological imbalance, your system changes, and those around you should be able to, maybe if they had watched carefully, maybe they would have identified that Yaki had changed or something like that. And I don't know who wants to share other signs. Signs and symptoms of the people who are victims of some domestic violence. Yes. Yes, over to you.
Thank you so very much. One of them, I think.
It will be some of the signs are the effect, like one of effects or consequences of domestic violence would be withdrawal. Like mostly with children, you see them like they go to school, they are very withdrawn. They don't take part in activities. Even with adults, some of the adults, you find that they are so withdrawn within themselves, like they are in a group or in anyway. You don't see them like participating. They cannot take active part in things. They are lost in their own words. They cannot express what is happening, but you don't see that they are just so withdrawn and they don't seem to function well. I think that is one of the things that Julienne has mentioned. I think one of her experiences was withdrawal symptoms. She was going through it.
And just to ask, Riva, are you going to be covering some of this in your presentation?
I am, yeah.
Okay, so then let's not duplicate. When she gives her own talk, we can continue this signs and symptoms of domestic violence victims. If we can discuss the ones that she did not mention.